I have two daughters, Kate 26 and Layla 22. As a single mom, I tried my best for both of them. But Layla, while I love her, makes it very hard to do so at times. She's always been attention-seeking, stubborn, and jealous. We did family therapy and individual therapy for years after her dad passed away when she was 9, but something snapped in her. Am I the idiot part? When Kay was 22, Layla 18 at the time, she had a boyfriend Mick 20, he seemed nice. Unfortunately, Layla needed all of his attention. It was constant. He'd be over at our house on the couch watching a movie with Kay, and Layla had to be right there next to him. When they went out, Layla chucked a fit if they didn't invite her. She messaged him constantly. She even went to his soccer games, skipping work at her job when she hadn't seen him in a while. Sending him pictures of herself, crying when I would ask her to get out Kay's bedroom when they wanted to be alone. I tried to put my foot down when Kay complained. I had a talk with Layla about boundaries and managing jealousy, and how maybe we should got back to therapy. She didn't want to listen, and she was cold. She started getting more secretive and Mick started withdrawing. It was then I walked in on them on the couch when I got home from work. I'll be real, I was not calm. I screamed. The whole neighborhood could probably hear. I banned him from the house. I threw her clothes at her and told her to get to her room. I called Kay and asked her to come home. Mick must have gotten to her before me. She came home a mess. It was one of the worst days of my life. After losing my husband, honestly, my daughter was devastated, and it was my other daughter that did it. Once Kay calmed down, she asked me to take her to my mom's house and I did. When I got back, I went to talk to Layla. She was sobbing, saying I ruined everything. That I hated her, that I was always ruining her life, that they were meant to be together. I held her despite wanting to scream some sense into her. When the dust settled, we talked. She fought any sort of blame, accusing her sister of abusing Mick, of Kay keeping them apart. As gently as possible, I told her that, well, Mick is awful, what she did is also terrible. She needed to apologize. She refused. That's not even the half of it, but the relationship has been strained for the past few years. Kay has moved on and I am close with Kay, and he's husband. I'm careful to never talk about Layla, and to be respectful of Kay's boundaries. Layla, however, begs for information about Kay, wants me to tell her everything, whines about how it was in the past, how she needs to get over it. I'm Kindo. I just told her, what do you expect? You never apologized. What you did was wrong. I love you, but I'm not the one to rebuild this relationship anymore. You're not kids. She didn't like that, and well, I feel like I'm respecting Kay's boundaries. Even my mom says I need to try harder to reunite them. So am I the idiot? Not the idiot. They're adults. Forcing a relationship would be forcing Kay to cut contact with all of you. Layla made it very clear to Kay that they aren't sisters, and that there is no loyalty there. In fact, Layla made it clear that Kay is her enemy and will be attacked as such, without merit and without apology. You're right not to try and reconcile this failed relationship which Layla cannot bring herself to care enough about to apologize. It sounds like she's interested in getting back into her sister's life, so she can destroy it as another ego boost. As a mother, you must love them both, but thank you so much for seeing how one hurts the other purposely, and not forcing it. Not the idiot. It might be hard to try to reunite them, because they're your babies and they will always be your babies, but they're also adults, and at their age, they are at the point that they need to solve this without you intervening much, unless they both ask you to help mediate. You did what you could do best for them. Honestly, if you tried to force them to reunite, it could ruin your relationship with Kay. If Kay isn't ready and doesn't want to reunite with Layla, then there is nothing to be done. I'm sure Kay will let you know when she is ready to have a relationship with Layla. Not the idiot. You completely did the right thing. You are respecting your daughter's boundaries and allowing your adult children the choice of whether or not they want to have a relationship. If your younger daughter does not want to accept responsibility for what she did, she is never going to have a relationship with your elder daughter. Your younger daughter needs to realize this. Kudos to you for doing the right thing and not pushing for a reconciliation. My mother tried to do that with me and my brother, and I kept on telling her to leave it alone. She finally stopped and I appreciated her finally respecting my wishes. I, F28, am an avid hiker and camper. I've done the PNT by myself, dozens of solo camping trips, and will hopefully be doing the Appalachian Trail this spring. All this is not to brag, but just to say I know what I'm doing. There's a guy about the same age as me in my friend group who has invited himself on a few camping trips, and it's never fun. He mansplains a lot, like telling me why I shouldn't wear particular socks, and that my backpack is packed incorrect. Well, I never want to body shame. He is also not in the best shape, and requests breaks frequently. He considers himself an outdoorsman type. That's fine, except last time we went camping I ended up trucking his absolutely useless inflatable couch down the mountain because it was hurting his back. This coming weekend I am planning a hike with one other friend. It is not an easy hike, rated about 4 or 5 stars, and typically described as one of the hardest hikes in the East. When this guy got wind of that, he texted me and said you need to make room for one more in your car. I just said, sorry, there wasn't any room, but he kept on pushing for a better explanation, and that he knew I could take him. I finally said this is a really hard hike. I do not think you can handle it. Maybe you can, but if you can't, I do not want to have to deal with an emergency while scrambling up a cliff. He is pissed. Told all of our friends what I said and they are actually on my side, which is nice. But one girl said I should not have embarrassed him. I didn't mean to. I just can't bring him along and take a risk. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. The only thing more you could have done would have been to beat around the bush even longer with lame excuses. I love camping and hiking, and my wife and I and another couple love to go together. I am very experienced, but not in great shape. Fortunately, I understand my limitations, and will let others in the group break off so as not to be that guy. Your friend blabbing to everyone about the private text and conversation proves the point that not everyone in your circle is in your corner. By the way, inflatable couch. Your friend must seriously give a lot of credit to camping comfort over hiking comfort. Not the idiot. First off, who brings an inflatable couch on a camping trip that requires trekking to your site? I don't think I know anyone who actually knows what they're doing, who brings more equipment than absolutely necessary. 2. Not all people are meant to go on all types of camping trips. I have friends that I love going car camping with, but there is no way I would ever go backcountry camping with them, because it would be a recipe for disaster. You do smaller or easier camping trips to figure out who is a good fit for the longer, harder ones. You were honest with this dude in private, and you had valid concerns based on past experience and general knowledge. You weren't a jerk. Not the idiot. As an avid, and currently out of shape, hiker, I want to be told if a hike is beyond my current abilities. I'm only taking day hikes right now, and trying to keep the elevation gain to a decent amount, but I still won't take some people because they won't be able to do it. If he's as much of an outdoors person as he claims, he should recognize your expertise and accept your judgment, his other negatives aside, which you're being very nice about. I could see him asking you questions about the length, elevation gain, and duration to make a personal assessment, but not being that upset at you. Also, you tried to give nicer excuses, but he wasn't satisfied. You were left with little other choice than to be brutally honest. My husband and I became pregnant with our first last June. By this point we had already been invited to the wedding of a couple of friends, Jack and Jill. They were both friends with my husband at university, and I became close with them. They both knew of our pregnancy, and were very happy for us. The wedding was in early December. By this point I was nearing 6 months pregnant. Jack and Jill reached out just before the wedding to say that they were going to make sure that I was as comfortable as possible, and that the staff would be on hand for whatever I could need. Basically, it wasn't a surprise that I was pregnant at all. On the day itself, we were immediately pulled aside by one of Jill's bridesmaids, who said that if we tried anything to steal focus, she'd throw us out herself. We were shocked and confused and said that it was no secret that I was pregnant, since we assumed that's what she was on about. However, she just sneered and walked away. We tried to ignore that and carry on with the day. We were sat with some of my husband's old university friends during dinner, a couple of which hadn't known we were pregnant before seeing us. We chatted a bit about how excited we were, and a couple of future plans, but conversation naturally moved on. A couple of hours later, we decided to leave, so looked for Jack and Jill to say goodbye. We stood by the table with the bridesmaid on just long enough to hear her saying loudly that when she gets married, there will be no one allowed to come who could upstage her like certain fat whales had done today. We find Jill a couple of minutes later, and I tearfully apologize for ruining her wedding because of my state. I wouldn't have normally cried, but pregnancy hormones are strong stuff. She said not to be silly and that I hadn't done a thing wrong. A couple of weeks later Jack got in touch with us asking if something had happened at the wedding that he'd missed. He shared a screen grab of comments from the bridesmaid and a couple of other people we didn't know in a wedding group chat, saying that the pregnant cow was the worst because she gloated about her pregnancy and didn't shut up about it all day. We said that never happened, and he agreed that it would be very out of character for us to be like that. Our little girl was born in March, so we haven't had a moment to sit down since then, but we intermittently hear from a few friends who attended that wedding that some of the guests still snipe about us being there and stealing the attention from the bride and groom. To be honest, we still have no clue what we did wrong other than be invited and have courteous enough friends who wanted to chat about our lives and make the day a bit more comfortable. Was it wrong for me to go to a wedding pregnant? Wow, not the idiot at all, what the hell. Did I miss some weird etiquette mandate about how pregnant people are not allowed to go to weddings if they're visibly pregnant? That bridesmaid sounds like she took her friend's wedding and made it all about her. Is bridesmaids a thing? If Jill and Jack enjoyed their day, that's what was most important. And it's so gross that a bunch of grown adults were still witching about you weeks later. In fact, it's actually really sad and laughable that they were so obsessed with you that they couldn't even be gracious enough to just enjoy celebrating their friend's wedding day. That's a really classless move and indicates a whole hell of a lot more about them than you. Not the idiot. The bride doesn't even think you're an idiot. And as a former bride who had a pregnant guest at my wedding, I personally wouldn't have given a crap if she wanted to chat with our mutual friends about her pregnancy all damn night, because we're friends and I was happy for her. I just wanted everyone to be comfortable and have fun celebrating my wedding. You can only carry on a conversation about the wedding itself for so long, good lord. That bridesmaid was deranged. I don't know what her deal was being so pissed off about a pregnant woman simply existing at a wedding. I don't get a lot of the bizarre wedding craziness though. Not the idiot. People are getting ridiculous about not upstaging the bride and groom at weddings. If they invite someone who is pregnant, that person will most likely be showing by the time the wedding comes around. People will ask about it because weddings are filled with friends and family. It's normal to talk about pregnancy. It's different if someone calls everyone's attention and makes a big announcement or proposes or something. That takes attention away from the bride and groom. What do these people think? That guests stare at the bride and groom for the entire wedding reception. It's a party to celebrate their new life together, not a show. I 47 meters have two sons from my past marriage. Abel 16 and Michael 15. When I got remarried 6 years ago, Abel was very accepting and got on great with his new stepmom Lori. Michael put up a fuss and was adamant about being with his mom full-time. I fought like hell to keep him in my custody, but once he hit 13, the agreement changed anyways. He stays with his mom half the month and with us the other half. We moved last year and Lori and Abel have spent time decorating Abel's room and making it his own. Michael was offered the same thing recently. Lori offered to take him to IKEA, Best Buy and some other store to find some new furniture and have a day to put the room together. He said he'd think about it, and she respected that, but still showed him paint colors, beds and stuff to get him excited about it. Last weekend he came home with a POD full of furniture his mom bought him. I asked him about it, and he said his mom helped him pick out the furniture and was coming around in a few to help him build it and arrange everything. I told Lori as a heads up and she was absolutely crushed. I took my son aside and told him the kind and fair thing to do would be to invite Lori to help. He said nah, and told me he wanted to build with his mom. Unbeknownst to me, Lori did try to join them and asked if they needed help, and my son sent her away and locked the door so she wouldn't come back. After Lori told me this, I grounded him for the week and told him at least he'd enjoyed the room his mom helped decorate. He, of course, left early to his mother's and told me he'd see me on our next rotation. Lori is saying I shouldn't have grounded him for spending time with his mom, and my ex-wife is saying if I keep treating him like this, I won't see Michael outside of holidays and birthdays. You're the idiot. You can't force a relationship between your son and your current wife. You got married by choice. He got a new housemate where he had no say in the matter. Your wife is not his mom, and she's barely his stepmom. There is a legal relationship due to your marriage, but there is no way in which she's stepping into the place of his mother. If there is a task that you would typically rely on his mother to do, then you need to go to his mother, not try to push him to do a mother thing with your wife. If you don't want his mother involved in decorating his room, then you, as his father and other parent, need to step up and do the work of helping him decorate. You are the idiot. You and Lori are trying to force a relationship with Michael, and it's just going to push him away. Let Michael set the boundaries and respect them. Lori has not. As hard as it is on her, she needs to step back. When Michael repeatedly told her no to decorating the room with her, and she tried again and again, she crossed lines. Your ex should have given you the heads up about the decorating arrangements, but right now Michael wanted to do it with his mom. Give him some space. Instead of grounding him, respect his boundaries, and he might grow closer to you. The more you push, the more he will push back. You're the idiot. Your son is old enough to decide for himself who he wants in his life, and who he considers to be his family. I hope he and Lori can talk between themselves at some point, without you meddling, and establish at least an amicable relationship. She isn't his mom, she isn't going to become his mom, you can't force him to take her as his mom. It probably is very upsetting to Lori that she can't be his mom, and I truly feel for her, but unlike you, she still has his best interest at heart. If you push this too hard, he's going to despise both of you, and it's possible that he'll take it out on Lori, since you're putting her at the center of all of this.